Fun Ideas Productions presents the Fun Ideas Podcast. Hi, this is Mark Arnold, and welcome to Fun Ideas Podcast number 19. An update on Alvin, the story of Ross Bagdasarian's Senior, Liberty Records, Format Films, and the Alvin Show. With a change of production artists, it's full steam ahead to get this book done and in your hands by March. The delays, you gotta love them. Today I interview my first female guest. Denise McKinney is a collector of matchbook covers and other old kitschy stuff and vintage thrift. She makes it a habit to visit Southern California diners with older decor. She is also the author of Morrissey FAQ, a book devoted to the former lead singer of the Smiths, who has had a fairly successful solo career as well. Here she is, Denise McKinney. So on the phone I have Denise McKinney. How are you today?
I'm good.
And just wanted to ask you, basically, I know you're into things like matchbook collecting or match cover collecting. I don't know the proper term. How did you get interested in collecting things like that and other vintage ephemera?
Well, I've always kind of liked older things. I grew up in the 80s, so I love 80s things, but my neighborhood was heavily developed like in the 1950s and 60s, so I kind of got a taste of it just by shopping, going, throughout my neighborhood. I've always liked old TV. It's just history has always been my number one subject in school, so I don't know, there's just something about the old way of life and vintage things that always appealed to me, not just the history part of it, but, the artwork or the typography and just, I don't know, it just seems like people cared more back then, and that shows in any kind of collectibles, ephemera, anything from that era. So I've just always had an interest in it.
Okay. In regards to your match cover collecting, what do you consider your prized possession?
Well, everyone has their own different prized possession or, the Holy Grail. There is a Holy Grail when it comes to matchbook collecting, and that is there's two. They're Charles Lindbergh covers from 1927.
Oh, wow.
They only made a few, because one was for a dinner, one was for a luncheon in 1927. They're rare, though, because, like I said, there wasn't many produced, and there's a typo on them. One says captain, one says colonel. Oops. So those are the Holy Grail, but they're not my Holy Grail.
Oh, okay.
People always ask, like, what's the Holy Grail? I'm like, well, technically, but every collector has stuff they're interested in. Mm-hmm. One of my favorite covers, and I always tell people, I guess it is my absolute favorite cover, I have one from Rodney Bingenheimer's English Disco that was on the Sunset Strip in, the 70s. To me, that's my Holy Grail, because how many of those really existed? I mean, not existed, but came away from there, that weren't destroyed or completely used up or damaged. And, it is a part of L.A. rock and roll history, So to me, I love that one. That's one of my absolute favorites in my collection. But everyone has their own different Holy Grail or favorite matchbook.
I know when you posted on Facebook, which I'm really impressed with, you can describe it better than I can, but it was something to do with Kentucky Fried Chicken or something like that.
Oh, yeah. No, that is, I guess that's my second Holy Grail.
Okay. Well, I don't know if it's Holy Grail, but I remember I was impressed with it, and I don't even collect the things really.
Oh, okay. Well, it's, they put these out, I want to say in the 50s. It's a Kentucky Fried Chicken, and I don't know if they gave them out or you were able to buy them, because a lot of places sold, the nicer matches or sets of matches, like in a gift shop or things like that. Kentucky Fried Chicken doesn't have a gift shop, so I'm assuming these were probably given away like at a grand opening or something like that. But it's a box, and it has 3 buckets. Well, they're supposed to be buckets, but they're barrels of matches, and they look like Kentucky Fried Chicken, buckets of chicken. But the box itself has like all about the 11 herbs and spices, and it has Old Kentucky Home on it, and all kinds of stuff. And those are not necessarily super hard to come by, but in great condition, they're hard to come by. So I was very thrilled I got this, and someone gave it to me like from their collection for my birthday, so it made it even better. But you're right, it's pretty amazing that, like I said, it's survived that long in such great condition. So I do love that one too. You're right, I did make a video about that one. So,
I forgot. Are they wooden matches or paper matches in that case?
They're wooden.
Okay.
Because if it's in like a barrel or in a matchbox, those are wooden. The only paper ones are on an actual matchbook. So.
Okay. And are there any now that you're kind of on the lookout for?
Well, we all have our categories of different ones we collect. I'm a collector that I really don't collect new matches, and I know a lot of them do. Like you'll see it on my Facebook. People will be like, "Well, you went to that restaurant. Did they have any matches?" I didn't ask because to me, I like the vintage ones, and I like the history of it. Newer matches are hard to find, but they are coming back. It's mostly matchboxes are coming back, and it's more like hipstery restaurants or upscale restaurants are coming out with more matchboxes, and casinos, because that's the only place you can still really smoke is in a casino. But I just with my categories, I just look to try to fill them out as best as I can. But new matches, there's nothing really I'm looking for new wise, unless it's just funny or hysterical or there's something about it. But I just keep collecting, and my categories change all the time because you got to keep it fresh. So I'm always on the lookout.
So vintage wise, what are you looking for?
Well,
the elusive.
well, no. I know I'm trying to condense it because I can go on and on about matches.
Right.
Well, there's general collectors which kind of collect a little bit of everything. Yeah. A lot of collectors now really specialize in different categories. So you'll meet someone like I know someone who only collects pizza or Italian restaurants.
Wow.
So that's all he wants. So I think after a while, you get kind of bored because, there's only so many, But I have a couple categories that I collect geographically, and one of them is Southern California. So that's always my biggest category, and I'm always on the lookout for those. Unlike stamps and coins, though, at least stamps and coins, there's a beginning and an end. And you know exactly what was produced, what was out there. So you have something to go off of. Matches is never ending. So you might think, I have a pretty good, Hollywood collection. No, you'll find some more that you didn't have or didn't even know you existed, and you're like, So I'm always trying to build up my Southern California collection. Other categories I collect just to keep it fun. I collect what I call party animals. So it's animals that drink on the cover. And there is quite a few, really, if we're looking at bars and lounges. I like cannibal animals. So it's like a steer holding a steak. Like Sizzler. So that's another category. I like cafeterias. What else do I collect now? Dogs, World's Fair, Route 66. And then there's always subcategories of categories, I do collect, I used to collect and I know it's not being right, but handicapped people, but it's not bad because you just need new stuff and you need something new to hunt. So that's a whole new thing. Here's someone in a wheelchair. I'm going to add it to my collection. You do. You have to keep it fresh and you have to think outside the box just so you're not getting bored of matchbook collecting. But I have a lot of little subcategories, because like I said, you got to keep it interesting and fun, and it is never ending.
And I assume because, I have a few matchbooks, and I'll talk about them in a second, but I mean, in collecting, it's more prestigious or desirable to have the actual matches still in it rather than just the cover itself, correct?
No.
Really? Oh.
No.
Oh.
Yeah, you can. No, you can collect however you want.
Okay.
We never tell you, don't do this, don't do that.
Well, I know, in comic book collecting, they're really kind of about things, so I thought maybe matchbook, maybe they're a little more lesser.
It is, and you really can collect how you want. But mostly, traditionally in the hobby, and you'll hear me refer to that because there's people who collect matches, but they're not in the actual, the hobby is what we call it. So they don't participate in clubs or the conventions and things like that. So in the hobby, and I'm using air quotes when I say that, the hobby, they suggest you take the matches out, which is called shucking.
Okay.
right? And that way it's just easier to store because you can put them in binders that way, and you can use them for your displays if you do make displays and things like that. The only matches we suggest you don't take out are in a feature matchbook, and a feature is if you open it and there's actual artwork on the matches themselves,
Okay.
then you keep those intact. But it's up to you. If you want to keep full books, that's fine. Some people say it's like a safety issue. I don't even know about that. I've had lots of full books because I'm a lazy shucker, and I've never had nothing catch. I'm a lazy shucker, yes. And I've never had nothing catch on fire. So but it's interesting because if you, I go to the Casino Collector Show in Las Vegas every year. You won't find a lot of match covers there. Casino collectors, if that's what they call themselves, only like full book. So it just depends, but it's up to you. It's up to the person. But overall, most people in the hobby do match covers. So.
Okay. Well, that makes me feel kind of better because as a child, I started collecting matches because they're free in general. And somewhere along the line, my mom says, "Take those out, you'll burn the house down." And so I had to take them all out, so I just have the covers. So, I thought, I lost all those matches.
No, so your mom knew it was that. She saved you a lot of, heartache and work and trouble, because it is a lot of work to shuck. And if you have new matches, it's easier because you can just do it by hand. But if you have older matches, like I have a little staple remover, and some people use all their little tools because you got to kind of pry the staple because it might be rusty or it's crumbly or something. So, if you can get it in the cover form, that's great because that's less work that you have to do. So.
Well, I do have a few, though, that still have the matches, and I don't think I will take the matches out in this case just because it was so old. Somewhere along the line, I came across the Disneyland tobacco shop.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, I don't know how rare these things are, but I've never seen it before or since, so I have that and it has full matches in it, but,
Oh, yeah, keep that. I think that one would look better kind of in a full book.
Yeah. But the ones I have that I know she made me take out, but now I feel better about it, is that porno cartoon called Shame of the Jungle. And I said, I want the matches in that. And my mom didn't care that there is porno penis pictures on it.
She just didn't want the matches
in there. Yeah, she just didn't want the matches in there. So that's what I was like, okay, but I kept it all these years because of being an animation fan.
Well, your mom's pretty cool. That's all I got to say. So.
Let's see. Have you ever considered, since you are a writer, have you ever considered doing a book about your match collecting, or is it just kind of a side hobby?
Well, there are a few books out there, and mainly there's nothing like written. It's just pictures of matches, and that's fine. And my collection has been in books. People do, the last one was someone did a book about like legendary Los Angeles restaurants, and I was contacted because they saw a cover I put somewhere, and I'm like, well, I got other stuff too. So they gave me credit in the book, and they used a lot of my matches and collectibles for that too. No, I've thought about it. I just didn't know which way I should go. Like if I should write about matches or the hobby or just pictures. There are a lot of people who have a lot of matches, so I don't know what my voice would be, but I always try to put stuff on Facebook or online and try to bring a more humorous voice to it, or and a female voice to it, because it is a very male-dominated hobby. And like most hobbies, most hobbies. So,
we're the weird sex, yes. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, and it's a very old hobby too, and it's just back then. If people liked collecting anything, stamps, matches, everything like that, the hobby is just kind of dying. Literally, one, because no one smokes anymore, and two, it's a lot of older people, and unfortunately, they are passing away, or they just can't do it anymore, so they get rid of their collection. So I go out and I visit. We go to paper shows and car shows and events just to try to educate people and get people involved in match collecting, just to show that it's not a dead hobby. And there is a lot of cool things about it. So it can either be, like I say, you're a history fan and you like the history aspect of it, or the artwork, anything like that. So we're always looking for people, and I always tell people, like I told you, you can collect however you want. Don't let the rules, dissuade you from collecting. So, I try. So.
Now, you mentioned Charles Lindbergh. How far back do matchbook covers go where there's something printed on it that would be desirable?
Well, the first friction match was patented in 1892, and so the actual matchbook came out 1900, 1906, and that's when it really kind of got popular through Diamond Match. The oldest matches you can find still, they're rare, but they're usually around World War I. There's a really popular, it's like a Knights of Columbus one that you'll see, and that's from World War I. There are a few really, really old ones. In the hobby, we refer to any cover as old if it's pre-war, so it has to be before December 7th, 1941. In the hobby rules to be considered legitimately old. But you mainly find matches from the 20s. I have quite a few from the 1920s. And I think that's just when, the economy was good, times were good, and they just started producing them. Yeah. Because matches were really, everyone had matches, but you were really selling matchbook advertising. And so that's when it really took off. Pabst Blue Ribbon was the first company to realize matches is a good advertising medium, and they were the first ones to really start mass producing matches with Pabst Blue Ribbon on it. The majority you'll find now, match-wise, I hate to say, but if you go to a thrift store, an estate sale, things like that, they're usually newer. And you can tell if you look at the striker. So if you have a matchbook and the striker's on the front, and we call it a front striker, that's pre-1972. In 1972, the federal government made them change it to put the striker on the back. So that's how you can kind of date any matches that you may come across somewhere. But the majority that I find now when I go out is rear strike, and that's after 1972.
I never knew that. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know why. I know a lot of people still smoked in the 70s, but they just pumped those out like crazy. But especially here, we live in California, we have a lot of matches still floating around, old ones. Vegas, there's always a ton of Vegas matches, so just it depends where you live and whatnot for the amount that you'll find. But the matches are out there, old matches. You just have to look and pay attention. Usually someone's family has them. It's oh, my grandma has a matchbook collection. She left me it sitting in the garage. Do you want it? And you're like, yes, I do. So.
Now, I assume you don't just collect matches. I've seen some other stuff you've posted before. So what other things do you tend to collect in the same genres that you're talking about?
Well, in the same genre, I first collected ashtrays, actually. My mother worked at a thrift store, and she knew I liked vintage Las Vegas stuff, so she would bring me Las Vegas ashtrays. So then I started collecting ashtrays, but it got to be too heavy and too fragile. So I ended up going to an estate sale, and a guy was a Greyhound bus driver and had a brandy sniffer full of matches. I'm like, oh, these are cool, so I bought it. And I started collecting that way because I figured, oh, these aren't going to take up as much space and, weight and fragile as, the ashtrays. And so that's how I started with the matches. So I had matches for a while, but then it branches off. So I had the matches. I also have a napkin collection, which I enjoy. I know, don't laugh, but
well, I'm just saying, how hard are those to come by? Although I have a couple of myself from the past.
Yeah. Well, these are a little harder to come by if you care about condition, because most of them were in a scrapbook. So I don't mind if they have tape. You'll see that old tape. Residue on it and stuff like that from being in a book. But some have food. It's gross. I've seen them for sale. There's a big old barbecue mouth stain on it, and I'm like, I don't need it that badly, But you're like, wow, you're $20 for this? No, I'm good. But no, you're right. I do like the napkins, because I do think they're a little more fragile. But most of the other paper stuff that I collect usually will resort back to matches, because one of the categories when you make displays is called a combo. And so that's when you mix, so you have your matches, and then you can put postcards and napkins and other stuff with it. And so that always appeals to me. So I'll collect other paper things, but if they especially can tie into my matches somehow, or someday I look at it and I'll buy it even more. But I like, a lot of gambling, or like Las Vegas-y things. California and cute stuff. I am a woman. We do automatically like cute things. So, if it's like a cute, napkin, matchbook, I'll collect it. But I have that. Just random brochures, or, like I said, if it's something that appeals to me and I can tie it back somehow to my other collectibles, then I collect it. I did acquire a collection of vintage roller skating decals, so I guess now I collect those. Go figure.
What is a roller skating decal? Describe that.
From my understanding, so you would go to your roller rink, and they would give you decals, and they're like those old school ones where you have to like wet, and then you put them on, and you would put them on your bag that held your roller skates, or some. I guess that's the only way you would put them, because I can't see them being on a car or maybe on your school book. I don't know. So they're really neat. The funny thing is I don't know how to roller skate. I've never learned, but now I guess I'm into roller skating decals. So I have those. And I don't even get as hardcore as some people. I know people who collect straw paper and tea tags, and I do have a few sugar packets, but not nearly as much as other people. So, anything's collectible, I guess.
Yeah.
If you think about it.
We mentioned my mom. It's like she's passed away, but she was an inadvertent collector, and when she did pass away, I found like old cereal boxes and everything, and she was just keeping because she was kind of a hoarder. but then
she was thinking ahead.
But then when she passed away, I found some collectors. I did keep some of them because I like things like Captain Crunch because of the Jay Ward characters and stuff. But I sold a lot of the Kellogg's ones to this other collector, and I was happy to let it go, and I got some money for it. So I was like, "Hey, thanks, Mom." But anyway, let's see. What was I going to ask you? So you do a lot of thrift store shopping. You've done a few videos on that. Do you go with any sort of goal in mind, or are you just kind of seeing what's there, or combination of both? How do you normally shop?
Well, I guess it depends on the thrift store. Yeah. And thrift store shopping now is nothing like it used to be. And I'm sure you agree and everyone agrees. Rarely do you ever come across a thrift store that has anything oldish, or good. There is one thrift store that I only go to now, and the only reason I go to it is because it is in an older neighborhood with richy kind of people. So better stuff gets donated. But the thing is, I just think a lot of people don't like that stuff anymore. You'll go to a Goodwill, and it's like all new stuff, and it's packed. And I'm like, well, I tend to go to the older thrift stores. And, if we are in an older neighborhood or a more prosperous neighborhood, you really do get better stuff. I don't go with any kind of mindset. There's just certain sections I look at, I always go through bric-a-brac. I always like saying that, bric-a-brac. I don't know where that term came from, but it's like Salvation Army calls their stuff bric-a-brac, so I always call it bric-a-brac. But, and that's where like the ashtrays are and the glasses and things like that. I do like books, so I always go to the book section because they usually have books, magazines. I gave up looking for records, which is another big collection. I don't look for records at thrift stores anymore because I have not found a good thrift store record in the last 20 years. So don't even go for that. But it's amazing what you will find. I mean, you really do have to look and just look everywhere. I found a bag of remember 76 gas station used to have the antenna ball, right? And you would put it on your antenna. I found like a bag of 30 of them, and they were like $6. And I'm like, I'll use these for something, or I'll give them away. Well, after all my research, I found out that these were from the very first year that they were produced. So I sell them each now for like $12 each. So I've already made my money back. Wow. But normally that would not be a thing I would I would normally get. But I was like, And sometimes you do feel you have to catch yourself because you'll see something old that's cool, but it's not nothing you really collect. But you're like, oh, but I want to give it a good home. Like, I don't want it, someone throw it out, things like that. And people fall into that trap all the time. Unless you like it and have a home for it, or at least can give it to someone, my advice is do not get it, because then you're getting into hoarder territory at that point. But all I can say is keep an open mind when you go to a thrift store, because like I said, you never know what you're gonna find, especially if it's a good thrift store. So
one video you posted, I think it was about 6 months ago, so you probably don't even remember. But the item I'll tell you is like I should have contacted you then, say pick that up for me. But I think you might have said it was already sold or something, and that you already had one. It was like a Travelodge statue or decanter or something, and it had the Sleepy Bear on it. And,
yeah, I have it. I bought it.
Yeah. Oh, okay. And I go, I want that. But
that was like a total find. Like, I did not expect that.
Okay.
When I was there. Like in the video, I even said that. I'm like, where'd this come from?
Yeah.
I have a new video coming up. I've just been really lazy because I did go to their store a couple weeks ago, and at least when I bought the bear, the thrift store was pretty packed with stuff. I went a couple weeks ago. There was nothing. I was just walking around, and I'm like, what is this? Do you remember the record store chain Peaches?
Yeah.
Right. It was a set of mini Peaches crates still in the box.
Oh, wow.
Right? So I bought it. I'm like, where did this come? Like, really? Like, there was nothing. And this was just like, like sitting there. So I bought it, and I was going to try to put it together, but the wood's kind of old, so I got to get some glue to put it together. But that's in my upcoming video. But like I said, I was just walking around, and they put it in a section, I think, with all the other wood kind of stuff, like wood shelves and wood. Because they didn't know what it was, and it was there. So that just proves my point. Look everywhere, because you'll find stuff that they misplace, things like that. So, but I'm glad you liked the Travelodge bear. It was pretty amazing.
So how often do you come across that? I mean, I know you're not posting every time you go into the thrift shop. Here's another video, but is that frequent nowadays, or is that few and far between nowadays?
I would say few and far between. Okay. The fact that you saw that it still had the head even. Like, I'm like, wow, that's pretty amazing. That because stuff gets lost and broken. It's one of the bad things about when you go to the thrift store, as you know, is they tend to tape everything to death. So it ruined, like, even those Peaches cartons I have, they taped them, so the tape ruined one of them, or they write the price on things, and you're just like, oh, God, you ruined it. If you watch one of my old record videos, I complain about when they put the price tag on the record cover, and then it ruins the record cover.
Yep.
I get it. It's a security thing. You want to keep stuff together, but so fortunately for that Travelodge bear, they did tape his head, and that saved it, but usually tape is the enemy when you go to any kind of their store or show. So, but, well, I'll tell you what. If I find another one, it is yours.
All right, thanks.
We'll mail it to you right away. So.
The only Travelodge thing I found in the last couple of years, and I'm in Oregon now, but I used to be in Northern California. Things are a little bit different in Oregon, so I do find things a little bit more frequently up here. It's just it's a little bit slower up here, to put it mildly.
Yeah.
Or behind the times, if you want to say it more diplomatically. So I do find things, but I found a Travelodge booklet that was from like 1960 or something that had like every location and a little photo of it and stuff like that. And this is a kind of goofy little booklet, and I said, oh, okay, I'll buy that. It's like a couple bucks. So
those are cool. I like those a lot.
Yeah.
And those help with research, too. And people don't think about that. So I like those kind of books, because then I can look through and either check addresses on matches or locations. Also, like restaurant review books are really, like old ones, are really good, too, for any kind of paper collecting, because at least it can kind of date when your matches were, like you'll find one with a restaurant. And if I have a review book from 1972 and it's in there, I'm like, okay, this is from 1972-ish. And then sometimes it just fills in the blanks, like what kind of a place is this? So any kind of those guides, whether it's a hotel guide, restaurant guide, city guide, travel guide, even just, now you don't think about it, but back then, if it was just say you're visiting Las Vegas and you pick up a travel guide, right? You didn't think about anything then, but now you're like, oh, look at the old ads and the old, So it helps you date, research any kind of paper stuff you have. So I always recommend people picking up, like you did, hotel guides, any kind of guides that you see. So.
And I used to do that. I don't buy them too many, but as a kid, and all through my lifetime here, so it's been a long time here, picking up brochures of like theme parks when you go to hotels and stuff like that. And I used to just pick them up because I go, oh yeah, I went to Marineland. I like this little book because there's no videos or anything at that time.
Yeah. And
then now I have them and I go, wow, where do you find this stuff? It's like, so I got tons of that type of stuff. And, I don't know, do you ever come across stuff like that? Because I never see stuff like that, of defunct theme parks and stuff.
Yeah, that stuff kind of goes for a lot just because you get the baby boomer people who are like, oh, I went there, and so they want it as a memento. I do see stuff on occasion. And also, like, say, Marineland, right?
Yeah.
Disneyland, any of those kind of places. It might be kind of rare just if it lasted so long in great condition. But on the flip side, millions of people visited these locations, right? So they weren't produced, in a small amount of number, but it's just how many have survived makes it a small number.
Right.
As an example, you get a lot of people, like I collect Las Vegas everything, right? But I have Las Vegas matches. You'll run across these people who are like, oh, I have old Vegas matches, and I'll look, and I'll pass. I'm like, I'm good. Oh, but these are old Vegas. And I'm like, it was Las Vegas. Do you know how many millions upon millions upon millions of matches that were produced, for a place like that? Like, they're not that rare. So, it just, regarding, like, the Marineland stuff, Disneyland stuff, it is a little rare just because, like you said, you kept it, but most people threw it away. Like, I don't need the map. So it just depends. Some stuff, it's rare because not a lot existed, and some stuff is rare because they didn't make. Or did I have that backwards? Some of it's rare. See, come on. Some of it's rare because, you know what I mean? Some of it's rare because it's just there's not a lot of that remain, and some of it's rare because there weren't a lot made. There we go. Right. There we go. Sorry, I'm blonde.
That's okay. Now, on Vegas collecting, do you tend to favor, and I probably know the answer, but I ask anyway, you tend to favor the casinos that are defunct and gone and imploded, as it were?
I will say, and I guess this comes back around to it, there's a lot of that kind of stuff around, and I love old Vegas, all the old, the old El Rancho and the Flamingo and the Stardust and all that old Vegas stuff, which, a town like Vegas, I still find stuff I'd never seen before because there was such a turnaround all the time for people, promotions, campaigns, anything like that. But my new favorite era, I guess, of Vegas is like that late 70s, early 80s Vegas, because Vegas was kind of like in a weird time. A lot of those people who would go see Frank Sinatra, weren't seeing Frank Sinatra anymore. It was a lot more younger people, but it wasn't yet family. But like that stuff might be a little bit more rare because, people don't think about that being a collectible. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this is just from 1980. 1980 was like 40 years ago almost, so... it's still technically old, but I love all the old Vegas stuff. It's, it's very, because it was trying to appeal people, so a lot of it's very cartoony, but it's glamorous. There's just, I'll take it all, and there's a lot of little casinos that only existed for like a minute, right? That stuff's a little bit more rare, or they opened and couldn't get their gambling license, especially like when you go downtown. There's a lot of really old Vegas matches from there that are highly collectible, because Vegas, I think gambling became legal like in 1931. So that kind of from the 30s, all those are worth a lot, and you can tell, you'll see stuff, it still refers to it like it's Boulder Dam. Then it's before it became Hoover Dam, right? Wow. So I posted one on my Facebook from a place called the Northern Club, which was the very first establishment in Las Vegas to have gambling in 1931, and it was owned by a woman. which is pretty amazing at that point. So, that's the really super rare stuff is little hole in the walls, things like that. But I'll take imploded, anything. It's all good for me, regarding Vegas.
Yeah, for me in Vegas stuff, I tend to collect stuff if it has like some celebrity of the past, especially if it's kind of one that's considered kind of campy or something. Like,
oh yeah,
I found postcards with Toady Fields on it.
I love Toady.
I found a magazine up here, strangely enough. It was the Sahara magazine, and it had Buddy Hackett on the cover, and I was like, wow.
That's great.
And it was a little pricey, and I was walking around kind of going, and then I ended up buying it. I said, I will never see this again.
Once you start, now it's going to just get worse.
Yes. And I posted it at the time when I got it, and a few people that I know are like fans of Buddy Hackett or that type of stuff said, where in the world did you get that? So I guess it is pretty rare. I didn't think of it as that way. I just said, oh, that's a cool cover, but it's like, I mean, I'll tell you the price. It was $30, and it was just this slim magazine. It's like $30, but
yeah,
ended up doing
it. And that magazine might have only been out for a week because Buddy Hackett was appearing at the Sahara.
Yeah, it was something like that, or maybe a month or something. But yes, very short, very limited distribution. So.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else? So, you are an author as well. And
yeah, I guess.
And I kind of mentioned that. Well, you mentioned you're a writer somewhere, so I'm trying to...
I don't feel like a writer, but yeah, I guess I am.
Well, you said so. I'm trying to...
I know.
Anyway, okay, we'll go by your books. We'll save the third one for last that I know about. The first two I don't know about. So, first one is Overbite. What is that about?
Oh, well, Overbite, I wrote 2 novels, and then I did my third book, the one that you're going to bring up.
Yeah.
But Overbite was, it kind of took my love for vintage stuff and vintage LA, and I kind of mixed it with vampires, but it's not your traditional, like, cheesy vampires. It's more like flipped, so it was like the vampire was the good guy, and the humans were the bad guy. But it took place, it's vintage, 1950s Los Angeles. I wrote that quite a while ago, but, I always try to take a different viewpoint or go a different way when it comes to vampires and not write the traditional, typical stuff. And I tend to look at it more like they're people, too. They just drink blood. So that's Overbite's more like that. So it's just, it's a tale that takes place in 1950s Los Angeles involving vampires, Mm-hmm. So he's a dentist. That's why it's called Overbite. So,
Well, what inspired you to write it? I mean, obviously you said, Los Angeles collecting and vampires, but I mean, do you have a love for horror movies? Or did somebody say, hey, why don't you write a novel or blah, blah, blah?
Well, I've always liked kind of like cheesy vampire movies. Like, I still like Once Bitten is great. My Best Friend's a Vampire. Like, all those 80s vampire movies were really actually my inspiration. I love Count Yorga. It's one of my other favorites. But, I'm not a hardcore horror movie person, surprisingly. So I don't know. I like vampires better than zombies. So I guess I went in that direction. I don't know. I guess I used to write a lot more, I think, before, we had other things to keep us busy. So I wrote that, and then my other novel, the first one, is Welcome to Slumberland.
Okay, I got those reversed. Okay.
No, it's okay. That one... See, I took a different way with the vampire. So there's a vampire in that one. Sorry, spoiler alert. But
I'm not reading it now.
Oh no, anyway, spoiler alert, right? So anyways, but that had to deal with more with like goth kids and townies, and it kind of took the other way where it's like, oh, let's pretend we're vampires. Oh no, there's a real one. So I wrote that like 20 years ago, if not more. But it was just, I don't know. I just felt like writing novels, and I went in those directions.
It was just an exercise to see if you could do it, or were you having a plan to ever be a writer? Or?
Oh no, I've always liked writing. Growing up, I always wrote. It's one of those things where just I happen to be kind of good at it growing up, and I always was a reader, so I always liked to write. I used to do a zine. When I was in high school, I did a zine, and like everyone did,
What was that about?
Mostly like music, like
okay.
punk rock, kind of, of course. High school punk rock scene, of course. What else am I gonna do?
Lawrence Welk? I don't know.
So I know I wasn't into comic books, so I didn't do like zines like you did. But it was just about music. So I did zines, and I would write for other people and things like that. So I just liked to write. I don't think I had dreams of being some kind of big author. It was just something to do. I guess, and to be creative, because despite being a Pisces, I am not very creative at all. I can't paint, can't draw, I can't, I'm not good at anything else creatively.
What?
So it was always writing, and I used to play music too. So I guess those are my two creative outlets at that time.
Is Pisces supposed to be more creative? I didn't know that.
Yeah, you're supposed to be more artistic and creative,
Oh,
but
okay.
not me. I'm adopted or something, because I'm the most un-Pisces you ever meet.
Okay.
So, but no, I just wrote, and I just think now, the older I get, other stuff comes up, and it's not time to sit down and write a novel anymore. But I always have lots of ideas, and just if I, get the time, perhaps, I'll start.
Okay, so there's no real ambition necessarily at the moment to do a third novel, just,
I'm trying to think of good ideas, and I don't know. I guess I'm good at characters. I'm good at characters. I'm good at the background and everything like that. Just plot is always kind of, or like I have a plot, but it's just getting from A to B to C. Nowadays, in my old age now, I like to plot everything out in general, right? No, I guess that's what I mean is, in my other books, I just sat down and wrote. Like, I had no idea where I was going with it. I just, but now as a perfectionist, I feel like I need to, this is what happens, then this, and then this, and then this, and that's where I feel is my problem, because unless I get everything perfect right there, I can't move on. You know what I mean? I don't know.
It's a matchbook collecting vampire that stalks Las Vegas. There's your.
There we go. Perfect.
I'll give that to you free of charge. Anyway.
Copyright Mark Arnold 2018.
Yeah. So you mentioned music, and of course this leads to your third book, and probably I would venture your most successful book, and you can give the full title. I just have the short version, Morrissey FAQ.
Morrissey, yes, Morrissey FAQ.
Yeah.
Everything you need to know about this charming man. Yes, that was an actual real book with a real publisher.
Yes,
I know.
Yes. Well, I have other ones. I don't have the Morrissey one, to be honest, so I haven't read it, but I know who Morrissey is. He was in the Smiths, and I have things like Monty Python FAQ. If you say, I always called it FAQ till this moment, and Beatles FAQ and stuff like that. So anyway.
Well, no, I was very honored to write the book. What happened was I had a friend who read my Welcome to Slumberland book and was pretty impressed, which I'm very honored, really. This person, I think, is amazing. So the fact that they liked it was the best thing. I was like, oh my God, I was very honored that he liked this book. Anyways, he suggested I write the Morrissey book, and I went ahead and did, and my outline was accepted, and I was like, oh, okay, I've never written a nonfiction book. So I went ahead and did it, and I think it came out okay, for my first time. There's a lot to write about Morrissey, so, you can't get every single little thing. I mean, even when I was writing it, I was almost done, and I'm like, oh, Morrissey's releasing a new album tomorrow, and I'm like, oh man, now I gotta Morrissey, and then Morrissey releases autobiography when I was in the middle of writing this. And I'm like, well, I'm gonna just give up now. Why am I gonna write this? Go buy the Morrissey book, guys. So, but no, I really enjoyed writing that. I thought I knew everything about Morrissey, but I didn't. I learned a lot through writing it. So, no, it was a great time. I got to go on a book tour and sign books and meet people and things like that. So it was totally fun. It's a lot of work. I kind of thought writing a nonfiction book would be better than writing a fiction book, because you're just writing facts. You're not having to think.
That's what I do when I write my books. Anyway, I don't think. Anyway, go ahead.
No, it was a lot of work, but it is what it is. So I'm very, I said, I'm very humbled and honored that I was able to write this book, and someone's thought so highly of my my writing.
Now, the million-dollar question, of course, is did you actually meet the man or talk to the man or anybody in the Smiths or anything else?
No.
Okay.
No.
Okay.
No. But, I don't know how I would be able to, especially like I said, Morrissey was releasing his book at the same time. Like, he ain't going to talk to me. Like, hey, can I answer a couple questions? He's like, yeah, here's an answer. Buy my book.
Yeah.
Hey, thanks, Morrissey. Thanks. I will. So, thanks. So, no, I have not met any of them. I'm not I don't know. I'd be too scared. I think, like, if I was at Amoeba and Morrissey was next to me, I don't feel comfortable approaching people like that, because if I was a celebrity, I don't know if I would want people.
Although now, since you wrote the book, you can go up to them. Hey, look, I wrote a book about you, and they go, please. No, anyway. So.
That's what we always joke. Like, we're gonna go see him. I was gonna throw a copy of the book on stage. Like, read my book. So.
Yeah, I had the same issue. I did Monkey's book in recent times, and we thought, because the Monkeys are getting older, they've been around forever, that's it, we got everything in the book. And then now they put out a Christmas album, so okay, so it's a year later, but oh well. So will this, since I don't know how that publisher works. I know, like I said, there's a zillion FAQ books on TV shows and movies and comedy teams and directors and musicians and artists and blah, blah, blah. Is there any need for any further books now that you did the Morrissey book? Like you said, you were interested in punk rock. Would they approach you to do a different group that you're interested in or anything like that?
Well, I guess I would have to approach them. At the same time I was doing my book, they had someone doing a Smiths FAQ. And I'm like, oh, okay,
really?
Like, I don't know, maybe he sent his in at the same time or whatever, and which is fine. I was more happy covering solo Morrissey, and he can do Smiths, although I did put a little bit of Smiths in my book. And so I thought it would be great to work in tandem, you know what I mean, like put us out together, but that never happened, but whatever. No, I was thinking about, and I know this is I wanted to do a Columbo book, and I wanted to do a Columbo FAQ, because my other love is Columbo and Dragnet and all these, old police TV shows. And I actually did an outline for the Columbo book, and I thought it was okay, but someone talked me into not doing it. Like, that's stupid. No one's gonna buy it. So I was kind of like, So I abandoned my Columbo book, but I don't know if anyone would buy a Columbo FAQ. You know what I mean? So I don't know.
Well, I know a man I just interviewed a couple podcasts ago, Troy Horworth, would buy it because he's a huge Columbo fan. So, but his expertise, if you don't know who he is Italian horror films.
Oh yeah, he's on my Facebook.
Yeah, but he's a fan of Columbo and Kojak and British comedy. He told me, but we never even talked about it with him because we're just talking about Mario Bava and Lucio Fulci and all those type of people that I didn't even know very well. It's like I know Mario Bava, but it's like, so I even thanked him. I said, "Wow, I got an education on this."
Yeah.
But I could say the same thing about Morrissey and the Smiths. I mean, I know like their records and collected them, but I really didn't. I don't know too much about the man himself, or that's just he puts out records every so often.
Yeah.
So I'll have to probably research your book too, just because out of curiosity.
I'll send you one.
All right,
so
cool.
Send me your address. I'll send you one.
All right, sounds good. Hey, that's how you get books, folks. Just do a podcast.
Right.
Okay. Well, let's talk about Columbo a little bit. What do you know about Columbo that would be interesting to readers if you made a book such like that?
Well, I think there's a lot and I guess too, you would have to be a fan of either old TV or old police kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. To me, I don't know, I find stuff fascinating about Columbo. Mm-hmm. And it was a different kind of show at the time. For one, you saw who did it, and you saw the crime before Columbo even showed up on, screen. Right. And it was just a different format. It did kind of take that, Columbo's all messy and a slob and stuff, but he's secretly brilliant, but there's something everyone loves about Columbo, now, of course, I can't think of my Columbo stuff, but I don't know. But I do think a lot of other police TV shows took a lot from Columbo. I mean, as soon as Columbo came on, then they started having, other than Kojak, I think Kojak came on at the same time.
Right.
Then they started having all these other, one-name police shows coming up in the 70s. But just even the format of Columbo has shown in other TV shows, even like SVU and all these other new kind of police shows, I think owe something to Columbo. And whereas, Columbo, you got to kind of watch it with a grain of salt, because really, most of those cases, if they went to court, they would not be convicted, because it's all circumstantial, or, Columbo tricked them, or whatever, and this doesn't make it good. But, so is it. It's still good, But one also thing I do like about watching Columbo is, you notice, if you watch Columbo, all he does is go after, like, rich white people, right? And that's even better, because it's true, like, he's not going after any black people, any other ethnicity, it's always, the people you really love to hate. So I don't know if you look at it as, working class versus upper class, or anything like that, but it is a good point to make that, they felt like, no, let's go after the people who think they are too smart and too good for Columbo and middle class people.
I never really thought about it that way, but that is interesting. It's true.
Well, and even if you watch Dragnet, or Adam 12, any of that too, especially Dragnet, it's kind of the same thing. Like, they don't go after any really ethnicity. Joe Friday on those shows is actually very, there's that episode where the cop was yelling at the black policeman, and Joe Friday's like, we don't have an issue with its color, neither should you. They're, believe it or not, a lot of that was ahead of its time. Even if you watch the black and white Dragnet, right. They have a Hispanic officer, and Joe Friday had a Hispanic partner at one point, and they had some girls who spoke Spanish, and the guy would translate. So it was very a good representation of Los Angeles at that time. So Dragnet, Columbo, I think, even kind of took from that a little bit. Like, it's 70s, it's decadence, it's ridiculous, white people, let's bring them down to our level again. And the working class, like Columbo and Joe Friday, So...
Speaking of Dragnet, the only thing he didn't like was dirty hippies. I remember that.
Have you watched, other than the 60s Dragnets,
No, I've seen the original. 50s? I've seen the 50s ones and listened to many of the radio shows. So
Well, do you ever notice, like, the Joe Friday, like, his life in general, though? So, like, in the radio shows, he's still, like, living at home, right, with his mom, and he's, like, a new police officer.
Smoking Fatima cigarettes, yes.
Yeah, Fatima cigarettes, Cool, when you smoke them, right? Yeah. So, but then in the 50s show, he's kind of, like, cool. Like, Joe Friday's, like, he's not all lectury, like he is. He even has a sense of humor, and he's just kind of, tough cop, but not too tough, and he's working, and, good for the police department. Well, then when it came back in the 60s, he's clearly older, and that's why they make him do all the desk stuff, like, oh, the president's coming to town, or now you got to go be the community service officer, and things like that. And he is a little bit more lecturing and about the hippies and stuff, because I think he's older, and, he's seen a lot, and the times are changing, and things like that. So, if you really watch it, you really do see the character of Joe Friday, grow up or, change with the time. But those 60s lectures are pretty good in a bad way, or
Well, those are the ones I saw first, because when I grew up in the 70s, it was like black and white was, I've said this to many people, black and white, except for maybe I Love Lucy, was verboten. They didn't even show, like, black and white Gilligan's Island episodes, and I never understood that. It's like, it was kind of like a rare elk day or something like that. It's like if they showed one, and I'd be like, what? I've never seen this one before. Why don't they show this stuff? I had no problem with black and white, but
I didn't even know Gilligan's Island was in black and white, until later on. Because you're right, all they showed was color of Gilligan's Island. So, and Blue Boy was my very first Dragnet episode I think I've ever seen when I was a kid, and because I would stay up late and watch Nick at Night, with my mom or whatever. And even that, like, scared me, because his face was all painted. And I'm like, oh, So I think Blue Boy should be everyone's entry into the realm of Dragnet, So that start there. Then, work your way back or whatever. So.
Now, let's see. Going back to Columbo, I was going to say something about that. Let's see. Columbo started as a TV movie, right, in like 1968 or something like that. Is that correct?
Yeah, well, they had a play first, the Prescription Murder, and then it became in 1968. That was like the TV movie. Okay. So Peter Falk played it kind of. I mean, his hair was brushed. He was wearing like a nice suit and things like that. But they realized what a good character Columbo was, just in general. So they're like, oh, well, let's, see where we can take it. So then that was in 68. And then like in 70, they had like the pilot, which was the Ransom for a Dead Man, I think is that one with Lee Grant. Mm-hmm. So that was like a TV movie as an introduction to Columbo, and then it kind of went from there. I do think they started making the Columbos, and then NBC liked it so much even before it aired, they're like, you need to make us a couple more episodes for the first season. So I think they knew they had a hit.
Now, I don't know if I've seen those earlier ones or not. I just remember watching it when it was on, but and seeing a few in reruns later. But did he start off the same way, where they solve them or they show the murder or whatever, the crime, and then he kind of bumbles his way through it, or was that a later evolution of the character?
Well, it all kind of started like they would show the crime first, and then and it basically the show is just seeing how Columbo figures it out. But after a while, they started like he was popping up sooner, before he saw the crime. Like there's an episode with Jackie Cooper was the Senate candidate, and Columbo's right there at the very beginning, because he's working the detail to protect him from the, shooter or whatever. So they started playing with the format a little bit. Towards the end, like in those later 70s ones, the only issue I have is there's a few episodes where it was like Columbo shows up, and it doesn't seem like he's trying very hard. Like he's like, okay, guys, I'm here, Yeah. And it's not like the same. And in the later ones, he doesn't seem to come across so like befuddled. Where he puts on that act of, oh, I'm just an idiot, So I think it has to do with different writers, because they did have a lot of writers throughout the series. The first episode, not the Ransom for a Dead Man, but the actual first episode, which has Jack Cassidy and Martin Milner in it, was directed from Steven Spielberg. And they always had top-notch people on Columbo, so whether it was Steven Spielberg or they'd have Stephen Bochco was always on there. Great people who went on to do great things, like Murder, She Wrote is a descendant somehow of Columbo.
Right.
Matlock, Diagnosis Murder, all of those somehow have some kind of connection to Columbo, whether it's writers, producers, things like that. So...
Although, it's kind of funny you mentioned Murder, She Wrote. I always thought this about Murder, She Wrote, is that it seems like she was always there exactly when the murder happened. Why wasn't she the prime suspect number one in every case?
Exactly.
I mean, that didn't occur to me when I was watching Columbo. He seemed like, he arrived on the scene and he was trying to figure it out. But she always was like there and knew what was going on, and it's like, well, and here's the murder weapon in my hand, with blood still dripping off of it,
But especially because she lived like in a little town, right?
Yeah.
Like how many people, like Columbo lives in the city of Los Angeles, millions of people, where she lived in some little town. I'm like, how many people are dying in this town, So yeah, you're absolutely right. It was just.
So I never warmed to that one as much. This is a zillion years ago, but it was when it was on. My ex-wife was thrilled with the show, and I just said, well, this is so silly. It doesn't make sense to me. But I would watch it anyway, So, but Columbo always appealed to me only from the standpoint is he just seemed like such a buffoon, and I kind of identified with him. I said, if I was solving crimes, I'd probably do it like him, unintentionally. It'd just be like, well, let me ask you this. Okay. Now, go ahead.
And I'm sorry. And the best part of Columbo too is always like the ending, like how he gets them. Because you're like, oh yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
One of my favorite episodes is the one with Dick Van Dyke, and the ending is superb on that one about how he gets him. And some of the times it's far-fetched, but, I guess he has the time to, that's why he's a lieutenant, he has time to think of this. You know that, and when you do watch Columbo, there's sometimes the suspect, you do sympathize with them, because like especially like with that Dick Van Dyke one, you're like, God, his wife is so terrible. You know, like, oh, I'd kill her too. You know. So some of them are like the William Shatner one from the 70s. You feel a little bad for him on that one too. But yeah, sometimes it makes it so good. You're just like waiting for Columbo to drop the bomb, and it makes it even better the fact that they just assumed he was an idiot.
Yeah.
You know, and he's just boom, done. He drops the mic. You know, walks away. So.
Now, there's no right or wrong, but just your opinion you know, they do zillion reboots nowadays, which I'm not a big fan of, like Magnum P.I. and Hawaii Five-0 and blah, blah, blah. If they redid Columbo now, do you think they could do it, or is Peter Falk one of a kind?
Well, because how would they do it? I mean, like, say, because they brought back Dragnet with Ed O'Neill, right, like in the 90s. That you can kind of do because, you know, you don't, Joe Friday, although he's like a tough character, it's not just like so much out of the realm of someone else doing it. If someone did a Columbo, you know, reboot, would you want them to be like, oh, you know, just one more thing, sir? You know, like how would you, you know, or do you want them to just be kind of like a different kind of a slob? Or just, you know, like, I don't know, you're going to get some young guy who lives on his mom's couch, but he's really a lieutenant, you know, and he's a slob that way. I don't know. Like
John C. Reilly, there we go.
Yeah. You know, like, how is it, you know, is he just, I think if you did a reboot of Columbo, you would have to completely redo the slobbiness somehow, or come up with some other kind of characteristic like that. Like, maybe make him autistic. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you know, people wouldn't think he figured it out, but oh man, he got it like that. I don't know. You know, I don't watch reboots, so I don't know how they did the Magnum PI or.
Well, I saw a clip of it the first time on another podcast, Stu's show, and he had TV historians with him, and they were showing, you know, the new reboots, or what they, you know, I guess they're not all reboots. Some are remakes or whatever, but yeah, Magnum is like, it's Magnum in name only, and basically Fast and Furious. So that's how they remade it. But even Hawaii Five-0 is, you know, young hunks on the beach. That's how I call that one. You know, it's like there's no one with the grittiness of Jack Lord on that series. So it's like I'm with you. I don't like these remakes because they're reboots or whatever, because they just are in name only. They don't even bother to make it, you know, anything like the original. Like, even if, you know, like the Dragnet one you mentioned with Ed O'Neill, I actually kind of like that one. He wasn't trying to be Jack Webb, but he kind of got the flavor of it, so you go, okay, he understands how it was done, let's do it again. You know?
Yeah, or do it, like, I don't even mind the Dragnet movie from the 80s with Dan Aykroyd and Tom Hanks.
Oh, yeah.
I liked that when I was a kid, and I've watched it since then. And I think they did a really good job with that, because they did enough of homage to old Dragnet, but they made it more contemporary for the 80s at that time, you know, and it kind of made sense. Like, the Dan Aykroyd character was a descendant of Joe Friday, and then they had Harry Morgan show up as Bill Gannon as the chief or whatever, but they had a new partner, you know, like, there was enough. I think that was a really great crossover reboot at that time. So if maybe they looked back on that and tried to figure it out, you know, maybe the kid could have been, you know, Thomas Magnum's whatever nephew, and you know, have Tom, I don't know, you know, I think you still need a little bit of the old. I don't know. I just think that Dragnet movie was really well executed.
On the Magnum one, the clip I saw, it looked like there's none of. I wasn't a big fan of the original Magnum, but I could see that Tom Selleck was and is kind of a charming person. You know, there's a, you know, for people who really like him, you know, I could see why people watch him. I always thought the show was kind of lightweight in the old version, but it seems preferable to the new version to me.
Yeah.
You know, even, you know, I can even tell that, you know. And so it's kind of weird when they do these remakes. Why even bother calling it? Why don't they just call it Fast and Furious, the TV show, or whatever? Because that was what it was like, just faceless people racing cars, and, you know, basically the car flipped upside down. The scene I saw, everybody died except for the two main characters. Silly, how would that happen? Why would that happen?
Well, and I think too, like other than Columbo, which is the only example I can think of that does not fall into this, most good characters are only as good as the supporting characters.
Yeah.
So I grew up watching Magnum because my dad watched Magnum, and yeah, we all like Tom Selleck, but you know what? Higgins was great. You know what I mean? Like when you talk Magnum PI, everyone's like, oh, John Hillerman and Higgins, and there was, and I can even still remember all of the supporting characters because they were also complimentary to, Thomas Magnum, and they were good on their own. Even the dogs. I remember, the lads. It was a good supporting cast. So unless you have that, no main character is going to be great or that memorable. So maybe that's why these new reboots, there's also not likable or unique enough supporting characters in it. I don't know.
Well, in the new Magnum,
I didn't see the Ghostbusters either. I didn't see the female Ghostbusters.
I did. I'll talk about that in a second. But the Higgins in the Magnum is a blonde British lady now. So.
Oh, really?
Yes. So. Very different.
Okay. Well, there is only one John Hillerman, but still,
And no mentions of macadamia nuts. Anyway.
Does it take place in Hawaii still?
I couldn't tell from what it was. The clip was so short. I assume, but honestly, I don't know. So it looked like L.A. to me, but anyway, it could be Honolulu, but it's like I don't know. But on the Ghostbusters, I will say this: I know before that Ghostbusters came out, there was a big backlash. Oh, they're doing it with women, blah 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 blah, and I decided to go in with open eyes and just say, well, let's see what they did. I actually liked it. I didn't love it because there's problems with it, but it had nothing to do with it having women in it. It had more to do with kind of just too many trips to the well, I guess is the best way to say it. I mean, Aykroyd's even trying to push a Ghostbusters 3 still after Harold Ramis's death, which I'm like, why? It's like you guys are 100 years old now. It's like, and I guess they could bring Ramis back as a ghost, or something like that, and
that's the ghost they need to bust.
Yeah. So I mean, it could work that way, but on the female Ghostbusters, it actually worked pretty well. The part I actually really liked is, in the original Ghostbusters, what's the actress's name? That was kind of like their secretary, and she was later on.
Annie Potts.
Yeah, her, and she was on Designing Women. In this one, they have, and I don't know his name either off the top of my head, but the guy who plays Thor in the Marvel movies, he's like their ditzy male secretary, and he's really funny. I was like surprised, and this is before Thor Ragnarok, which he's very funny in too. So. He has a good sense of humor. I like the guy. It's like, but. So I'd recommend it. I wouldn't say it's like, the number one best movie ever, but I mean, it's not as dismally bad and unwatchable as a lot of people claim. It's decent. I'd give it a B,
Okay.
So.
Yeah, I'm not a fanboy or fangirl of anything, really.
Yeah.
But so I didn't get the backlash about it. I mean, I don't know. I just didn't care either way. I'm like, okay. I wouldn't go see it if it was men or women.
Yeah.
Like in it. Like I don't see what the big hate was, but I'm glad you said it was decent. It makes me feel better. So.
And actually, I would say, if anything, I think it's better than Ghostbusters 2, if you saw that one. So.
Well, that's not hard.
Yeah. So.
The best thing about Ghostbusters 2 is the Bobby Brown song. Really, if you think about it. So I only seen Ghostbusters 2 once at the drive-in. When I was a kid, and I'm like, I never feel the need to to watch it again. But I'll listen to that Bobby Brown song over and over. That was great. So.
The only part I remember in Ghostbusters 2, honestly, and I don't even own it, so I haven't watched it in years. I think I've seen it a couple times. Is just that they had the ghosts of the people on the Titanic, and I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. But other than that, I don't even remember what really happened.
I don't even remember that. Yeah. So I'll take your word on it.
Well, I had a friend who's I haven't talked to in years, but he was a huge Titanic buff, and so I learned everything and anything. So when the James Cameron Titanic movie came out, I knew where they were spot on and where they were wrong about factual information about what went on, and it was kind of interesting to see it for that reason. Like,
did you go see it with your friend?
Actually, no, but we talked about it at the time, and the main factual error, of course, is no one in steerage would ever fraternize with somebody in first class. It just would not happen.
Okay.
At that time. But hey, you got to tell a story, so that's why you got Leonardo and what's her face together. It's like
yeah, and I'm willing to sustain enough disbelief or belief. You know what I mean? Like it's for entertainment.
True.
But that's why I wondered if you went and saw it with your friend, because that would have been like a miserable experience. Because he's gonna be like, "Well, they got that wrong." The whole movie.
No, we talked about it afterwards, but that was the main thing. It's like that would never happen. But I was amazed when that movie came out. Actually, it's like that Cameron went to the levels of actually printing up plates with the White Star Line on them to make them authentic. It's like they're on the screen for like 30 seconds at best, crashing off of shelves and breaking. And you actually had to print little flags on each one. Wow. So.
Yeah.
But I guess people will check with their Blu-rays. Yep. It's accurate here. So okay.
Well, it's funny you say that, because I noticed like when I bought like a brand new TV, it's a couple years ago, but big HD, really nice. All I do is watch Columbo and YouTube rips on it, right? So I'm not even getting the full HD, what it's made for. But I do watch Columbo, and I do see a lot of discrepancies. But I think it's because I don't think they ever imagined that we'd be watching something like that, like on a huge TV and a good TV like that,
Oh,
and,
yeah.
Like you're right, you think at the time, no one's going to notice there's no flags on the plates, but with technology, someone's going to be like, oh yeah, those plates aren't real. They say, ever on them. So, yeah, you're totally right about that.
So, anything else you want to talk about? I think we're
we've talked about a lot.
I told you, it's pretty freeform. I can just kind of go all over the place. It's like I usually try to plug people's books and things like that. So I'll give you the opportunity now. Do you have anything to plug? Any new projects? Any websites? Anything else?
Well, my books are available on Amazon.com, and I have some here. So find me on Facebook or whatever, and I will send you a copy. I am trying to work on a podcast. I was doing my YouTube channel for a while, which you guys can go to, youtube.com/DMcKinney. I'm not a very technologically savvy person, as you can tell, because, I'm watching Columbo on a big TV, but I need help with stuff. So I'm going to try to learn how to do a podcast like you. So I'm going to try to do a podcast. We're going to talk matches. We're going to talk about just anything. Doesn't have to be history, but we'll see how it goes. So that's going to be my new project I'm working on. And because of your encouragement, I'll think about writing. But anyways, check out my YouTube channel. Check out my books, and check me out on Facebook. And I'm always available to talk matches. So if you find matches and need some advice, anything, you want me just to come talk matches, I have a whole slideshow. Anything match-related, paper-related, ephemera-related, let me know. I'm always available to talk paper. So.
Are you going to call your show Meh?
Meh. Well, my Instagram page is called Down to Shuck, because I'm always down to shuck, Or no, I do my little video, my Mornings with Myrtle. I thought about calling the podcast that too, But we will see. There will be meh in there somewhere, though. You know that for sure. So.
All right. Well, it was a pleasure talking to you today. And,
same here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we'll talk to you next time.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thanks. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you soon.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you for listening, and thank you again, Denise McKinney, for being my special guest. Episode number 20 will be coming soon. If you would like to comment and or be a guest on this podcast, please drop me a line at funideas.mark@gmail.com. Become a Patreon of Fun Ideas Productions. If anyone listening just contributed $1 a month, that would be a tremendous help. This has been the Fun Ideas Podcast. This is Mark Arnold speaking. This episode is copyright 2019, Fun Ideas Productions. Thank you very much, and have a good night.